Hey,
Hey there.
how's it going, man? I got everything
Going
here.
great.
Sweet. Great. So yes, I'm glad we were finally able to do this. Like it's been a
Likewise.
while.
Yeah,
It's,
yes.
and it's been fun to was it the PMA one initially? Or I can't remember. We're sharing the room on, yes, it was.
Yeah,
Yeah, one of the workshops and stuff. So
yeah.
um doing some good stuff. It's been a fun year in the sense of getting to meet people and share the room virtually with some great thinkers like yourself. So I've enjoyed that, and I've enjoyed watching your journey and all these different things you've been doing as well through in the last year and a half. So very cool.
Well, I think what's really interesting is that I feel like we don't hear a lot of people having fun over the last year, and I love that you said that you're having some fun. I mean, because it's easy to sort of look at like the pile of the terribles, and all the things that are really gone wrong, but to look at really some opportunities that have come out of this is really a blessing, and there's a lot of gratitude around that. And having conversations virtually that while we might be exhausted by how much virtual we're doing, does open doors that maybe weren't open before to have conversations of all kinds. So I kind of love that too.
Yeah, absolutely. And just as we're getting started here, Trent, if you want to just say your name and your business, and we'll just flow wherever the conversation goes.
Oh yeah. So I'm Trent McEntire and McEntire Pilates located in Rochester, Michigan, just north of Detroit.
Oh, very cool. I thought you were further south for some
Yeah.
reason. You're like really close by,
Yeah. I'm just
relatively
across
speaking.
just across the bridge.
Yes, exactly. It's so close and yet so far right now, right? Like
Right, yeah,
this
exactly.
is
Oh yeah, we're not able to cross the bridge. So yeah.
yes, it's too funny. And you have your online platform as well. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so the online platform is actually something that will launch this month as a totally reinvented, recalibrated program. That's really what I've spent the last year plus working on. I
Hmm.
did work with some virtual clients and I have, but I really cut back um, to just maybe a fraction of the clients that I was seeing to make room for this new platform. And I'm really excited about it because I feel like it's, my 25-year career culminating into a space where I
Hmm.
haven't had creative space to build something from scratch in a long time. And to have that
Very
much
cool.
time to build something from scratch has been really a gift. And that's one of the gifts of COVID for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's funny that you said that in that way about the timing, right? Because this is the time when, because there's so much downtime, we have time to stop and really work on our businesses instead of just working client to
Working in it,
client,
right?
bell to bell,
Yeah.
working on it, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's exciting. So, what made you decide to dive deep on this part of your business?
Well, it's like in my state, we were closed for 6 months. So there was no in-person anything.
Mhm.
The future very up in the air. Who knows what it's going to be? And I just thought, what do I want it to be? I
Yes.
haven't been in this place in a very long time. Probably since college and just after college, where it's like, what do I want to do? I have a lot
Mhm.
of room, and I've got this runway in front of me, and what do I want
Yes.
to have here? And so I
Yes.
just started eliminating the things that didn't align and feel like it's where my growth and my future and my hunger and desire lived. So
Hmm.
um, that took some time. I mean, that it was hard. I mean, I saw a lot of clients, and I was mostly what I was doing was traveling. So I was in a different state or country just about every month for a while,
Yeah.
and that became the life, and it's has side effects. It's not very sustainable in
Yes.
in a creative capacity in terms of putting out new work, and being creative and also creating new work is important to me. And I found that life and schedule really started to have a toll on how much creative output I was doing.
Yes. How long did like how long did it take for you to figure out that the being creative and having that space within your work needed a lot of expression? And the reason why I ask that is because I have a friend who's like like he develops business and he's been
Yeah.
doing it for maybe 30 or 40 years now, a long time. And he's recognized over time that he gets so excited at the idea phase and the rollout phase. And then after that, he's like, he's over it. He wants to just start the next business. Whereas some
Hmm.
other people love executing and visioneering. You know, everyone has their different piece that they're so passionate about. Have you always
Right.
recognized that you've had that, like that creative piece needed that expression?
Yeah. Yes. Always. I mean,
Yeah.
that's, I came from a dance background, and so,
Okay.
in choreography, so creative was always a part of it, and art was always a part of it. But the athlete in me also likes the output, likes the crossing the finish line. And so
Right.
what I fell in love again with was actually crossing the finish line. And that's where there's an expression that I like, that it's ABCF. So it's always be creating and finish. And I think a lot of
Yes.
creatives don't finish.
Don't
And so the
finish.
world the
Yes.
world doesn't get to see their work. And
Yes.
that's what I fell in love with again during COVID, is finishing something. It's like, oh, I have this
Mhm.
idea. Well, you can have the idea and you can do it halfway and then see another shiny object and do that one halfway. And then the
Right.
world doesn't get to see your work.
Right.
The people
Yes.
that you know that you can help don't get the help that you can offer them
They
because you're
could
not
have had.
finishing. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. That sounds like a discipline issue more than anything, would you say?
I mean, I think first it's awareness. It's like Pilates. It's awareness that
Facts.
you're
Yes.
not finishing the work, you know?
Yes.
It's
Yes.
like, if you don't have the awareness that you're not finishing it, then you can't really have the discipline to, even though I don't want to. I don't want to do this thing on this website for 3 hours,
Mhm.
but it means I get to finish. So, and when you look at the landscape of a project, and it's easy to go, oh, I love these 10 things, but I
Yes.
hate and I'm not good at these things over here.
Right.
Well, done, having it finished is better than nothing. Discipline does come into effect, but it's also, I think, it's a reminder that finishing
Mhm.
matters to the other people.
Yes.
I mean, that's what you're doing. That's what you're doing the work for. You're doing the work so people can benefit from it. So
Yes.
if
Yes.
you're trying to have the impact, and I'm trying to have an impact, then I got to finish. So I have to remind myself of that. So I do have to remind myself. It's not something I'm like, oh yeah, I just automatically
I
finish.
got
No,
this.
every
Right.
day, finish,
Right.
finish.
Well, I think
Yeah,
and the refresher, like, because I'm also one of those people like impact is really a good like a gauge for me. Is like I want to have that impact on other people. So
yeah,
telling myself to finish is one thing. Telling myself to finish for someone else might be that motivator for me to get it done. Because I can get over it if I don't finish it for myself.
yeah. I think that's why this like ties right into how you run your business. It's, if you're asking for testimonials and you're asking for referrals, it's how you build your business. For
Yes.
me, it's also another source of energy to finish, because when
Mm,
when you get
yes.
someone like, I had a mom from Chicago call me out of the blue. She got a brain speed ball. She left it on the counter. It was for her. She got it
Hmm.
from her teacher. Her daughter found it and on her own started playing with it against the wall and made up her own games. And she
Yes.
calls me and tells me that her whole life, her whole family dynamic has changed because her kid has this brain speed ball. And I'm like, wow, I have to finish this next project, like,
Yes.
because this is
Yes.
this is what's going on. And so I
Right.
feel like if you ask for the testimonials, like anybody, you go, okay, that's why I'm doing this, because there's more people
Yes.
like fill in the blank. We all have them. All of us as professionals have our own example.
Yes.
Excuse me. And so I feel like that gives energy, kind of re jolts it.
I like that. And that's just, I think it might be the second or third time the testimonials have come up in conversation. And just on the weekend when I did my talk, on Friday when I did my talk, there's people who weren't studio owners. There were people who were just instructors, right? Who felt
Right.
like
And
they were
don't realize
powerless.
that they're actually in business. Right.
Right. So, and with that, we are giving these suggestions like, well, I can't do that. I'd have to ask the manager. I don't know about that. I have to ask the owner. And they felt really strapped in
Mm,
by the fact that they didn't have this liberty because they weren't a business owner, they were just a teacher. And I said, you
right.
can ask your clients for testimonials. Anybody can ask their clients for testimonials. That'll bolster your confidence what you do. Even to your boss, it'll show them that you're on the right track. It elevates your sense of professionalism within yourself, all these different things. So yeah, there's so many valuable things to a testimonial. I feel like I'm going to be preaching, go out there and get testimonials for your clients like all
Yeah.
week long because it's come up
Yeah.
so many times.
Yeah.
And just actually out of curiosity, for people who are watching, how many of you, by show of hands, there's a little hand icon there in the comment section, have asked your clients for testimonials in the last, Trent, would you say 6 months?
Oh, I think it's being generous. I think you should say the last week. If you're not
Last,
asking on a weekly basis, I think you're missing opportunity. But you can say
yes.
6 months. It's fine. We'll
Okay,
be
let's
generous.
just so people have some sense of
Yeah.
self-esteem.
Yeah. They don't hang their head, right?
Right, yes. Testimonials. No, but I think I need to circle back to that too. Like that really does help to do that. So one of the things you said earlier, just a minute ago, was about having this runway. And it's interesting that at this stage of the game, and not to say you're old, but 25 years, 20 years in the game is a lot of experience. So now to
Yeah.
have this runway coupled with resources and experiences and all those different things, like that's a good place to be. That's exciting in a sense, right? Because
Yeah.
before you'd have this runway and you have this opportunity, you have this blank canvas, but not as many resources.
Well, yeah. And also, you're looked at differently when you're in your 20s. It's like, yeah, sit down, shut up, put in your time. You don't know anything.
Right.
Right. And in your 30s, you get a little bit of, and then in your 40s, things really change. And as you get through your mid 40s, which is where I'm at, you know, I also am not racing. I'm not racing the other 20-year-olds. I'm not racing because I've I have a very long career that's based on my own story and my clients' stories that I'm cultivating work with a specific lens in mind. And so,
Yes.
that to have that runway and to be very clear about how I want to show up for the people that I'm helping, it is a great place to be. And it's
Yes.
and for not the first time, but for the first time in a long time, I'm not really worried about competition.
Mm-hmm.
Like Pilates teachers, if you're in a dense area where there's a lot of teachers, it can feel like you're competing against a lot of people.
Yes.
And this is where, again, it ties back to that testimonial thing. But if you can get really clear about who you serve and
Yes.
why they want you, why is it that they see you, not Pilates,
Yes.
but you, what you bring,
Yes.
those are the things to lean into.
Mm-hmm.
There's room for everybody. There's enough clients, there's enough money, there's enough everything for everybody. It's just getting really clear about really what you show up with as your natural gifts that you can lean into. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what makes me feel like I have the runway. It's like, yeah, I've got this experience. And for me, part of the resource element is the network of professionals that I've been working with for
Mass. Yeah.
years. And so that actually connects to the impact. So that one of the things I'm most excited about is that I'm going to be able to offer people, just generally consumers in the public, access to professionals as brain speed coaches so that they
Yes.
can do an online program that's really affordable on my platform, but also through that same platform, find a coach in their area. So if they want to do
Yes.
in-person work or private work or whatever, they can do that. And for me, that was a huge, when I really did a lot of self-reflection on what are the opportunities in the Pilates space, because
Yes.
the brain speed ball isn't a Pilates space exclusive program.
Right.
It's really for the consumer, the everyday person getting access to brain performance for kids, for seniors,
Mm-hmm.
and for athletes that are recovering from injuries and
Yes.
performance.
And
So
performance.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when I look at the ability to connect these professionals, suffered greatly. I mean, just the last year and a half has really taken a huge toll on the
Right.
Pilates community. And instead of creating a workshop online that I could just charge them for because I know that they're available,
Yes.
and then one more thing for them to spend some money on, which is fine and has a place. But for me, I thought, well, I think I'd feel better if I could make that a part of my impact. So, you know, connecting these professionals to the consumers who maybe don't even know that they exist, that don't know that they have these ninja skills that they can bring to the table.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, that's great. I think that's the approach that we should all be coming at this with, is that we have a unique skill set and we're not, I say to my clients all the time, this is you versus you right now.
Yeah.
Like like a lot of times we think that we're in competition with others, but we're so uniquely qualified to do what we do, and yet we still try to be average.
Yeah. There's a couple books that come to mind that help me handle that piece. You know, the book, The Alchemist,
Yes.
is fantastic. If you haven't read The Alchemist, anybody who's watching, it's just a fantastic story of a journey of finding, you know, your treasure and finding what it is that you're meant to be here to do. And
Yes.
it speaks to the journey. So whatever part of your journey you're on, you can identify with the character, and it's pretty fantastic.
Absolutely.
The other one is by Seth Godin. It's called The Icarus Deception. That was a really
Okay.
helpful book for me too. And it's not a new book, but you know, this whole idea of like, don't fly too high because your wings will melt from the sun, and don't fly too low because you get sucked into the water. So we kind of stay in the middle. We kind of stay
Yes.
average and in the middle.
Right.
And that's kind of built into our culture and built into society. So, and then so for me, I come from this tiny little town of 300 people. So for me, going to college, just the act of going to college was reaching into the sun. And so then there's this dynamic with the group that you maybe are part of, that you're better than them, or you're different
Yes.
than them, and they want you to be like them. So you have a lot of pressures. That's one example, but there's other pressures that
Yeah.
kind of
No.
pull
Yeah.
you into
Exactly.
average. Be average like me, you know, make me feel
Yes.
better. Be average like me, you know. Um, so I love to see the leadership. I love the leadership that you've been doing on this platform too. It's like just seeing people like really step into their strengths and fill a space that
Yes.
needs to be filled.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, that's thank you first of
yeah,
all.
yeah.
But that's scary at the same time, because like
It's really scary. Yeah.
what's that? There's an analogy. Is it sunflowers or poppies, or one of those things? There's a analogy of that. Like the one flower that grows higher than the others is the one that's going to get picked, sort of thing, right? Like, I can't remember. I've heard something. It's
Yeah,
a
it's poppy.
fable.
It's
Is it
yeah, it's
poppies?
like don't be a tall poppy, because
Don't be a tall.
I think that's yeah, it's like
Yeah.
tall poppy syndrome.
Yeah. Right. Yes. Exactly. Right.
Yeah,
So there's something scary that can happen if you're outside of that mediocrity, right? So yeah, that's good
yeah.
stuff. That's worth the price of admission right there. If you
Right.
run with that. Um,
Yeah.
so how did you find Pilates initially? Because you branched out into, like you said, movement in general, but like, how did you find Pilates in your own journey?
So I found Pilates when I was in college.
Hmm.
You know, freshman year we had, you know, this is a time where that trademark issue was going on. So it was a dancer specific conditioning
Movement
program.
class? Conditioning. Yes. Okay. So what's the
It
key
was
phrase that we need
Pilates.
to do?
It was
Yes.
Pilates, you know. Um, and you know, for me, my journey with Pilates and being in that world um, was informed by my own injuries and my own story. So I think the best way to explain it is that, you know, I was born with a class 1 cerebral palsy. So I had a head injury
Oh,
at birth.
okay. Yeah.
Now I didn't know that. I was always athletic. I played basketball, went into dance. I loved the creativity. I loved the athleticism, especially of it. Um, and happened to have some talent, some skill. So I went to college and was in a great dance program. And for the dancers in the room, they'll know but if you're not a dancer, it's okay too. But we were doing really challenging work, and really we were doing what the university did is they brought in the Balanchine Trust. So New York City Ballet, George Balanchine, they brought in his trust to set work on the dancers at the university, and I had the
Okay.
lead. Amazing for a dancer. It's an incredible opportunity. Something I'll never forget, the feeling of doing that work. But what
Mhm.
came with that was so many performances over and over and over and over again, that my compensations that I had learned to work and dance with caught up with me, and I got injured,
Yes.
and I couldn't
Yes.
walk in the morning. I get up in the morning and like shuffle to the shower and could barely manage the pain from my knees down. And I had so many restrictions. It just really felt like a wall that I wasn't going to be able to get past. And so I was home for Christmas, and I was telling my mom, I just don't know why I'm so tight and why I have all this restriction and so much pain, and I don't know what's going on from my knees down. And she looked at me and she's like, well, Trent, it's because you were born with cerebral palsy. And I was like, what? So I was
What?
19 when I found out. And
What? 19.
and
Yeah. Oh, by
yeah,
the
but
way. Yeah.
yeah, by the way, but you know what? It turned out to be an incredible gift, because I never had that label. And at a class 1, you wouldn't know it by looking at me. And many
Mhm.
people have class 1 that you would never know, because it's not something that has a marked gait difference. When you get to
Okay.
class 2 or 3, you start to see like clearly there's something going on in the gate to indicate that there was something at birth. But
Yes.
that became um, the launch pad for me to
Hmm.
investigate what's possible. And this is before
Absolutely.
really brain science had really become mainstream. And so I
Right.
was investigating the possibilities of repatterning what I was dealing with without knowing that I was repatterning, without knowing the neurology of it. And I spent many
Yes.
years, and I recovered my own injury, went on to dance professionally. But then that really became my contribution and what I wanted to do with Pilates. And so McEntire Pilates,
Hmm.
while in the beginning I got a lot of flack for putting my name next to Pilates, I felt strong with that because what I was doing is bringing the brain science to Pilates and brain performance to Pilates. So that's really
Yes.
now that science has caught up and there are books, and like I'm reading a book for the first time years ago going, hey, this is what I do. Yeah,
Yes.
this is exactly what I do. I didn't know there were names for it, you know? So
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
it's amazing.
Yeah, I almost felt I just wanted to jump in and just pause on something you just said there, just for the audience to hear that. I felt strong with that. I just want that to just kind of hang out there in the space for a second. I felt strong with that. I love the fact that based on your, like we said, culminating earlier, the fact that you lean into that, your life experience, your exploration of movement, your celebration of movement, and boldly call that. I felt strong with that. I wish that we could all feel strong with the things that we have that conviction with, instead
Yeah.
of trying to fit in and try and feel comfortable and not ruffle too many feathers by doing something that, really from the inside out we feel stronger, but from the outside in, we're not really that strong with it, sort of thing. So
Yeah.
I love how you said that. I think that's powerful.
Yeah.
Just kind of
I
said it in
think,
passing, but that's so
I
strong.
think there are a lot of, there are a lot of performers in the Pilates world, not just
Hmm.
dancers. There's a lot of musicians too that I've met. Um, that world has so much criticism and so much of your success is driven by outside opinion,
Yes.
the majority of it, and you're never
Critique
good enough.
driven.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're never good enough. You're never enough, ever, 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 ever. And so when you carry that into your Pilates world, it can be hard for people to sit in strength with their gifts because
Yes.
they've spent 10, 20, 30 plus years of somebody telling them, many people telling them, no, a little bit faster, a little bit higher.
Mm.
No, not quite. Nope, you don't get the job. You know, um,
Ouch.
so yeah, so to feel
Yeah.
strong in it, it's really incredible. And I mean, I remember being at a conference early on in my career and having someone come up to me and they turned their badge around so I couldn't see who they were, and reached out and grabbed my badge. I'm like, now who are you, and who did you study with, and what makes you think you should be here? I was like, well,
Really.
you don't know me, but that doesn't scare me because I'm not I'm not here because I'm a chicken. I'm here because I feel strong in what I'm doing, and you may not
Yes.
understand me, and I might need some time to help you understand what I'm doing. And sure
Yes.
enough, I did and I do, but it's that showed me even their insecurity around
Yes.
their own journey and their own work. I'm sure
Of course.
they were incredible, but they couldn't even sit in their own strength, so they wouldn't let me sit in my strength. Again, the Icarus deception. Pull him into the
Yes.
water. Come down here and join me. So
Yes.
I want that for people. Our clients need that. The people in this world that really fall, but like they're not at the gym necessarily because they don't want to, or they don't fit in, and they can't
Mhm.
really do something on their own, and they're done with PT. There's this huge gap. I call it the movement gap that people fall
Okay.
into, and
Yes.
that's who we help. They fall into this
Yes.
gap, and they don't really know how to get out of it, and they could spend their whole life there.
They
So the
can.
stronger people feel with their work, the better chance they have of helping with people out of the gap.
I love that. Love that. That's so good, man. Good for you. That's yeah, that's powerful. Because I think that, yeah, what you said is so key. Just reading some of the comments that came through. Marcia Paulus, my friend, long time, said, I've
Haven't
heard
seen her in a while.
Trent's, I know, eh? Hope she's well.
Me
I've
too.
heard Trent's story many times, but today what hit me is how I meet so many people labeled with something wrong with them and how it makes them believe they can't change or heal. And it's funny that she said that because that's exactly what I was thinking. The blessing of learning at 19,
Yeah.
that saved you from using that as an excuse.
Yeah. I would have been taught to use it as an excuse,
You
right?
would have been
That would
taught
have
to use it as an
been,
excuse.
that would be
Yes.
the, yeah. I mean, I was mad. Let's be real. I was mad that I didn't know. I'm like,
Right.
wait a minute. But real quick, it was like, yeah, but nobody else does either. So they don't see me as that. And what
Yes.
what happened as a result is that I was always seen as capable. It, and
Yes.
and also, this is like, this is a shout out for teachers right now because I had a teacher in fifth grade, Mr. Berlinski, that it was the most influential teacher I've ever had because he went to the special ed teacher, and that's what they called it at the time,
Yes.
and brought in a student, and then asked the whole class, "Is there anybody here who would partner with this student during social studies?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll do it," you know.
Hmm.
And so he paired me with this guy that I basically was in charge of keeping him on track with our reading because he was like a transition student where he didn't really belong fully in the special ed class, and he couldn't
Yes.
really be totally independent in a regular class. And so there was empathy at an early age that was taught,
Yes.
and I think that learning of my own situation, having a little bit of empathy taught at a young age, has given me an advantage and perspective when somebody has a situation to see where they have strength. That's where I think
Yes.
our clients, they need us to see where they have strength so that we can help them lean into their strengths because they're already
Yes.
picking themselves apart. You put
Right.
them down
Right.
and they do something wrong on the reformer. It's like, nope, not like this, like this. Oh, put your feet here. Don't drop that down. Lift that up. You're breathing wrong. We can tell they already doing it themselves. So if we're telling them
Right.
something wrong,
Yes.
we're adding to it. So the empathy piece in where can you help them feel strong? I think it's really a different lens to look through. So Marcia, I love that. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would also add to that, would you add to that empowerment as well?
Oh, for sure.
Because it
Yeah.
sounds like empathy is one thing, but then instead of feeling like you're the one who needs help, you've empowered that person to help others
Yeah. I mean,
from
I think
wherever
it
you are, actually.
starts. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, no, go ahead, please. Yeah.
I think it starts with the lens of empathy. I think if you can look through a lens of empathy and go, okay, I can see what the situation can look like and feel like, and then you go, okay, where is the strength here? And then by helping them lean into the strength and coaching the strength, that they do feel empowered. And
Yes.
a lot of people have their hope has died about their own body, their own well-being. So if you can
Mhm.
spark some hope and you can give people just a little bit of hope, it really creates some momentum for them in their life.
Yes, absolutely. So you discover Pilates before the labels are out there. You're navigating this on your own. Was there a point in your Pilates kind of path where you were just teaching general population and decide I'm just going to dive into this one corner of movement?
Um, I think it was just the natural attraction of the people that I mean, I think here's what it is that I was willing to work with the most challenging situation because I love problem
Yes.
solving. Like I was put on the
Curious.
planet to do that. That's
Yes.
why I'm
Yes.
here. And so
Yes.
I worked at a large studio, and I would have other teachers give me clients because they didn't want to deal with them. They didn't have the tools
Yes.
to.
Mhm.
They didn't have the skill or the tool or desire. And so I ended up with some incredibly, incredibly challenging situations, not personality, but scenarios,
Yes. Yes.
injuries or surgeries or whatever it was, diseases, um, that I was just willing to hold space for that person. And that doesn't mean that I expected to always have the answer, but I was
Right.
willing to hold the space for them. And so that became a
Mhm.
partnership. And I think that
Well
that
said.
led to kind of like refining who I work with because
Yes.
um, I think that just about every Pilates teacher needs to be coached on identifying who they're meant to work with and who they do their best
Mhm.
work with. That's something that I
Yes.
find myself doing on a regular basis for people, even even teachers that are in their 60s and 70s that are relooking at how they're organizing their teaching. So it's not something you do just when you're young. It's something you want to continuously do because if you're
Yes.
working with the people that fill you up and give you energy, then you can feel good about your day and your week and your year and your
Yes.
career and how it's moving.
Right.
Um,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And I think that that's going to evolve too, right? That's going to, yes, Mark's put it there. Yes, same thing I was just saying. That will evolve as
Yeah,
we
I hope
grow,
so.
and different,
Yeah.
and we go through different stages of our lives and our families'
Yeah.
lives and stuff, and that informs what we start to pour our energy in as well.
Yeah. And it's I think it's important to know also who you're not meant to work with, because it drains you. That doesn't mean
Yes.
you can't help those people, but if you
Mhm.
left drained at the end of a session, I don't think you're meant to work with. That's not who you do your best work with.
Right.
Somebody else will do their best work with them,
Yes.
and that
Absolutely.
might be a condition, it might be a personality, it might be an age group. But yeah, I think one of the things I think that surprises people the most to hear is when we have new clients that come into the studio, that every new client is filtered. And so that filter is about matching them with a teacher who does their best work with that kind of a person.
Yes.
And years ago, when I was doing the intakes for everybody, I would refer people to other studios. It's like, I actually think that working down the street would be better for you. I think you'll be happier.
Yes.
I don't think you'll enjoy it here. I think you'll enjoy it there, you know?
Yes.
And every once in a while somebody gets through that filter and you're like, yeah, that was a mistake.
Yeah.
They don't belong
Right.
here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody here knows that they don't belong here except for them.
Except for
They
that.
feel it,
Right.
but maybe not as much as the rest of us do, because everything is so cultivated in the space.
Yeah.
But
Right.
yeah.
But to that point, I agree with that 100%. But then I think the challenge is to cultivate a community where that's happening everywhere, right? Like there's an exchange, there's a reciprocation that needs to happen, because I can't just hand them off, and if someone else doesn't recognize that some people need to be handed back this way as well.
I don't even worry about that. I
No?
listen, if our clients come from referrals, that's who,
Mhm.
like, our clients are sent from referrals. Our, like, competitor studios that I send people to, um, they're not sending clients to us by telling them to come to us. They send clients to us by they do. Those clients themselves, and they end
Yes.
up in our space.
Gotcha.
And that's so, because we ask for referrals too.
Hmm.
So if I have an opening, this is one of my best practices early on. If I had an opening and it's like, hey, I have an opening twice a week on Tuesdays at this time. If you know somebody that wants to get in, let them know, and I can get them in,
Yeah.
and it's filled. So when
Yes.
your clients, it's a way that they feel like they can thank you for the work you've done with them. They don't lose their slot, which is what they care about.
That's really what they care
They
about,
keep their
let's be
time,
real.
their time. But
Yes.
um, that
That's a
referral,
great
so I don't,
practice.
yeah, I don't worry about that. I think it comes back in other ways.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's true. Well said. I'm just reading another comment here.
Yeah.
And Brooke B. Tyler, hello. So, Trent, can you talk about the ball, the brain speed ball, the actual product?
Yeah, this guy.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah,
What a coincidence. You just
what a
happen to have one.
coincidence.
Yes.
Yeah. I always have one. Are you kidding me? I have one in every vehicle and every room. Yeah. What's really funny to me is that years ago I wouldn't have seen that this is a trajectory that I would be on, because I was teaching movement, and I was teaching Pilates, and while it was very much rooted in neurological fact and strength, it
Yes.
wasn't something I saw myself doing. But when I met with a vision therapist years
Hmm.
ago, and found out that I had this weakness in my eyes, and it realized as I was examining myself as a student in elementary, high school, college, that I always fell asleep when I would read, like I was narcoleptic, like
Mm.
two sentences
Yes.
in, I'm falling asleep. And I
Yes.
learned that that's because my eyes didn't work well together. And so that discovery with a vision therapist really got me thinking about the connection between our senses and how our body moves, and so how our brain and body
Yes.
actually work together. And what I discovered is that it had a huge impact on me to be able to strengthen my eyes. And I started looking at, okay, we look at strength and range of motion and speed and coordination and flexibility with our shoulders and our hips and our abdominals and our back and our feet. But
Yes.
looking at that same lens with our senses is not something that we really practice regularly. And
True.
so
Yeah.
when I started to look at the possibility in that space, that's when I realized it's like, yeah, there's a lot of really incredible work that vision therapists are doing, and a lot of really incredible work that neurologists are doing, but it's not fun. It's really dry. It's really
Yes.
boring. The um, I want to the willingness to do
I see where you're going.
homework,
Yeah.
the
Yes.
willingness to do homework goes down. It's like, here's your
Yes.
tear off sheet for your exercises, and then people don't do it. And so I thought, well, how could we make this fun? And that's really where the bright orange and black ball came in. It was like,
Yes.
how could we make this fun? And also, how could we take this into spaces where we could have a bigger impact? Because, Pilates has a certain barrier that people can't get through financially sometimes. If they can't work privately or they can't go to group classes,
Yes.
how can we reach the kids? How can we reach the seniors that need that social engagement and that memory work? And so
Right.
that's really taking the ball. I'm not the first person to put letters and numbers on a ball. That's not the magic here.
Right.
It is how you put the formula together and you make it fun and you actually strengthen the senses so that your eyes get stronger, have more flexibility, have better coordination, because that's what the brain's listening to. So when that discovery and
Yes.
sort of aha moment, it was really the energy behind it all.
Right. That's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. And I know from being around some people who sell products, fitness products, and T-Rex is a perfect example. The T-Rex, the suspension training straps.
Right.
A product is only as good as the education around it. Right. So if you want to make sure that we have, retention, there's no attrition, people do it and they stay with it. And like, was it Temley Sure says, I use a brain speed ball daily with clients. Like, when we can make it
Hey,
fun and
Sammy.
engaging, and we have all that packaging around it, then people will stick with it and the product will survive. So that's amazing.
Yeah, I think what's exciting for me is that, I've been in movement and exercise world for a really long time. To be able to offer something that goes beyond that world and into consumers' hands
Yes.
is really what's exciting. It's like that runway that I have in front of me. I have never produced programs and products for consumers. So that's what the new platform does. And it serves professionals really well, but to give consumers a way, and just the average person who knows nothing about, my background can get something and get a tool that really has an impact on their life or their kids' quality of life is amazing.
Sure. So can I ask you like a business question, like just
Sure.
a person business question?
Yeah.
And for those who are watching too, we are in the service industry. How hard has it been for you to sell a product?
It's not hard.
Okay.
But before you're selling it, that's the hard thing.
Okay.
Okay, because this is about what outcome does it create? What opportunity, what possibilities, what doors does it open?
Yes.
And so I think that, it's a combination of story plus product. That's the business side of it. It's like, if you don't have a story, or you're not able to share other people's stories, then it's hard to see the connection between the product you're selling and what the outcomes are. And are these people like me? I want to see myself in a product that I'm buying.
Yes.
Like, oh yeah, people like me do things like this, right?
Right.
These are my people. And so this is like just golden for any Pilates teacher, any movement instructor, anybody who has a business, whether you're a solopreneur or you actually have people that work for you, is gathering those stories. Those stories are really what make whatever service or product you have come to life.
Yes.
It's like, oh, I see how that could have an impact on my life. Oh, I see. I'm like that person there. And so selling the product, I mean, you have to have some things in place. You have to make sure that it's priced properly. You don't want it too expensive or too cheap, and good quality. Like, there's some easy boxes to check, but the harder boxes are before you even sell it. It's having the stories and having the connection to it. Having
Yes.
the strength. Again, it comes back to sitting in that strength.
Yes.
I feel I'm really like 8 inside. So playing a game with the ball is right up my alley. And so I can live that with anybody. Like if we're playing a game together, I can live that. I don't have to pretend like I'm having fun with the ball. It's a
Right.
given, you know.
Right. Yeah. That's helpful. That's why I asked it, because I think we gravitate towards service stuff because it's easier to sell a service. It's easy for me to be in control of the quality of the product because I'm physically delivering it. But
Yeah.
now if I'm distributing balls with characters on it, am I in control of that? Well, it comes down to how passionate about the story, like you're saying, or whatever the
Yeah.
thing is. So that's key. I love the central piece to having a story or testimonials that's coming out of our conversation today. That is so powerful.
I haven't met a single Pilates teacher. And I've met thousands all over the world. I haven't met a single one that doesn't have great stories to tell. They just don't tell them.
They just don't tell them.
And if they are
Yeah.
telling them, they're telling them to other Pilates teachers. And those aren't
Yes.
the people that need to hear them.
Right.
The other every other person needs to hear them.
Right.
That's what you put on your website. Those are the interviews you do. Those are the stories that you share. It's what matters. Like those stories really matter. They have a huge impact because people are scared and they don't know if they can trust something, whether it's a product or a service. And
Yes.
how they learn how to trust is through those stories.
Well said. A gentleman that I had on before, Akil Augustine. He's a commentator for the Toronto Raptors,
Okay.
and he writes. He's a color commentator. He does a bunch of stuff. He goes into schools. He also teaches meditation. He does
Mm.
like 17 hustles going on at the same
Right, right,
time,
right.
as well as being like this high profile guy. His title, if you asked him what he did, if you bumped into him on the street, he would say, "My job is I'm a storyteller." That's his gig. Whether
Mm.
it's painting the story for people trying to listen to a basketball game on the radio, or he's in front of kids trying to show them the importance of meditation just for their own centering, whatever it is, he's just a storyteller. He calls himself a storyteller. Full stop.
Right. That's awesome. I think we could all learn from that. I mean, I think that's especially with all the shifts that people have had to do with COVID. You know, the one thing that I saw that made me really cringe and just knew it was wrong and knew it was so wrong is when everything started shutting down initially, there were so many professionals that were giving their services away for free.
Yes.
And I thought, oh, stop giving it away for free. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
not the answer. But if you tell stories about the people you work with, you'll fill your schedule. Whatever that new virtual schedule is, you'll fill it. Just tell the stories. Don't give it
Yes.
away. You don't have an absence of clients because you're not giving enough away. People don't know the stories. It's like just like you don't have a headache because you don't take enough Advil. That's it.
Right.
You you don't have holes in your schedule because you haven't given enough away for free. You have holes because nobody else knows your stories.
Right.
Tell your stories and then tell them again. I mean, there's an expression, I don't remember where I first heard it, but it's like, you share a story and people will pay you to tell it again. And then they'll pay you to tell it again, and they'll pay you to tell it again. And
Yes.
there are some really well-known speakers that get paid $30,000 to be on a stage to tell the story that they've been telling for 20 years
Right.
because it has an impact on people.
Yes.
Like, I'm not alone. I mean, if you have the ability to help someone feel seen, I mean, isn't that what we're talking about? We've been talking about for a while
Absolutely.
now. It's like
Yeah.
if you can give someone the chance to feel seen, that's really where doors can open for everybody.
Yes, and that's exactly it. And it's funny, the other element to that, which I think about, is how boring the story gets for us telling the same story again.
Right?
And I think of like the Rolling Stones going on concert, or U2, for example, and just doing a 90 city tour. And they got to do the exact same story, the exact same song with enthusiasm for the
Mm-hmm.
person who's never heard the story. You're telling the story to the person who's never heard it before
Yeah.
every single time.
Right. Right. I will give some advice here. This is a technique that I use,
Sure.
and this is like real world help for any teacher who's watching. Okay, this is like golden. This is how you, if you have an opening in your schedule, this is how you fill your schedule. The next inquiry you have, whether it's on phone, it's virtual, it's in person, whatever you're doing, you're scanning in the conversation for a client you've already worked with that's just like them, that reminds you of them. And as soon as you have that person in mind, and as soon as you have enough trust in the conversation, then you shift your conversation to, you remind me of Judy. Judy came to me with X, Y, and Z, afraid of this and that, not able to do X, Y, and Z. And we put a program together, and after 3 months, she hit this milestone. And after a year, this is where she's at. And here's where she is now. But you remind me of her because as you're talking about your story, you have so many things in common with Judy. And then that person goes, oh, there are people like me that come into this space, and I can be safe here. And it's really where it's at. If you can make people feel like they fit with what you're doing, because they do. I'm never telling them that oh, you're like Judy as a gimmick. No, they're really like Judy, or they're like Bob, or they're like Marie, whatever it is. They're really like that person.
Yes.
They're not alone. And they feel alone, and they're afraid, and they don't know if they can trust you.
Right. That is brilliant. So simple, but so brilliant. Because that's
can I piggyback that with something?
Please.
There's this notion that in Pilates especially, you have to talk about your tools. Like when I watch a consult happen, and I see that the teacher's giving the client a tour of the studio, and these are reformers, and they have springs and the carriage slides, and this is a Cadillac, and it's got these attachments, and we do this and this on them, and this is a ladder barrel. It's like, what are they there for? They're not there to hear about your tools. You don't go to the dentist for him to explain your drill to you.
Right.
This is my X-ray machine. I don't care. Make my smile nice.
Right.
Fix my pain.
Right.
Fix my pain. Would you just fix that thing? I don't care. So if you can stop talking about your tools and realize that if you can get to the heart of who they are, and then they can feel seen, you can help them. You already know you can help them. You have to bridge the gap between you knowing you can help them and them being able to trust you. And it isn't about talking about your tools.
No. I don't know where the time went, Trent, because it's 58. That was awesome. Insane. Man, there's so many good takeaways. I'm going to recycle all these little pieces and put them back out there, because I think that storytelling piece is golden and so helpful. And I'm really excited to see where your brains, all this work comes, man. Like, I'm just keep cheering you on. That's amazing. Amazing work.
Yeah. Thank you. This is the great conversation. I hope you keep having these conversations, because I enjoy them. And I think it's an important leadership role that I look forward to seeing where this goes for you too.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Marcia, thank you for your comments. Thank you for sharing. And thank you to everybody who's been jumping in and just sharing throughout the day. Like it's been some really insightful stuff. All right, my friend, I will send you the replay for this after. And yes, thanks for your time today. Really, really appreciate it.
My pleasure. It was fun.
All right. Thank you.
Ciao.
Sign up. Take care.